Hello everybody, my name is Hannah and welcome to my channel where we talk about all things spooky. It's currently October, which means it is spooky season. For spooky season this year, I'm releasing 3 videos. 2 of those videos are going to be about my recent spooky girls trip, and the 3rd video is going to be about my experience as a ghost tour guide in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The spooky girls trip that I took involved my besties Kylie, Faith, and I going to Sleepy Hollow, New York, and then to Salem, Massachusetts. I recently made a video about the legend of Sleepy Hollow, which I will include in my description, so you guys can check that out if you'd like. But today's video is going to be about Salem, Massachusetts, and of course it's going to be about the Salem Witch Trials. So for the first part of today's video, I'm going to be talking about the witch trials, and then for the second part, I'm going to be showing you guys a little vlog of what we did in Salem. So the Salem Witch Trials took place in the 1600s between February 1692 and May 1693. So the Salem Witch Trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people being accused for witchcraft. And about 200 people were actually accused during the witch trials. Now, most of the people in the witch trials that were accused were women. Only a few men were accused. Now, I want to say that the women that were accused in these witch trials were not witches. They were Puritan women, and they were just that, women. The witch trials was a result of mass hysteria and pointing blame. If you didn't want to see someone, or if you had a grudge against someone, you would just call them a witch and get done with it. One of the only men that was accused during the witch trials was actually only persecuted because he said that he believed his wife was not a witch. So himself and his wife were both persecuted. His wife was hanged and he was stoned to death. And what I mean when I say stoned to death isn't throwing stones at someone until they die. What they did is they had him lay down and place planks with stones on top of them until he eventually crushed to death. Everyone else during the witch trials were hanged. Hanging is a horrible way to die. You're suffocating. Although it only lasts a few seconds or minutes, it would obviously feel like forever. The witch trials was a horrible event, and it really should not have happened. Some people would consider me a witch. I probably would consider myself a witch, I guess, because I'm into tarot cards and crystals and doing little spells, but I also am a Christian. I'm not a Puritan in any way, and the women that were accused of being witches they were just religious women who believed wholeheartedly in God and their religion, and to be killed for something that they absolutely were not a part of is cruel, honestly evil. And even if they were killing witches, real witches, that would be horrible unless, they were out killing other people. But nobody was doing anything bad. No one did anything wrong during this trial. And that's what's so disheartening about it. The only person who would technically be considered a witch was Tituba. Tituba was an enslaved woman who, in historical records, they called her the Indian woman. But of course, she was not Indian. They liked to label black women back then as any race than they actually were. She definitely wasn't from India, and she wasn't indigenous to America either. She was most likely an indigenous person from either the Caribbean or South America. She was sold in Barbados to Reverend Samuel Parris. Samuel Parris was the minister of the village of Salem. Samuel Parris was married to Elizabeth Eldridge, and they had 3 children together: Thomas, Elizabeth, also known as Betty, and Susanna. Samuel had a pretty large house, and his household during the witch trials also included his widowed sister-in-law and her daughter Abigail Williams, and of course Tituba, as well as another enslaved person known as John Indian. The first people to be accused of witchcraft was a part of Samuel's household. Tituba was the first to be accused, as well as Betty and Abigail. However, Betty and Abigail claimed that Tituba was roping them into witchcraft and that they were being influenced to do so. Now, the witch trials all started when Betty and Abigail started having strange fits and afflictions, and eventually they one day said that this was because they were being almost forced to be a part of this ceremony in which they danced naked at night to worship the devil. Nobody really knows why they claimed this. Tituba could have likely been actually doing some sort of rituals at night, but it's not because she was worshiping the devil. She likely came from South America, and a lot of South American people were heavily spiritual, and they wouldn't have considered it witchcraft, but to Puritans, they would have considered that witchcraft. But to be clear, Tituba did not worship the devil, even though she actually claimed that she did, and then she accused other people of signing their name in the devil's book as well. If you signed your name in the devil's book, that means you were a witch and you were selling your soul to Satan. And during these witch trials, if you claimed that you were a witch, the Puritans believed that you could be saved and made Christian again. But if you denied being a witch, you were sentenced to death. So it is likely believed that Tituba was beaten or scared of what would happen if she claimed that she wasn't a witch. So that's why she did say that she was a witch. And it is also believed that Samuel Parris kind of coerced her to say other people's names. Or maybe it was the girls. Betty and Abigail were really not innocent at all during this. They were the main accusers of people. We don't like them. They were not good people. I don't care that they were young girls. They knew what they were doing during this. And it is most likely believed that they just didn't like certain people and they claimed that they were witches. Or they probably just wanted attention. Whatever the reason, they were accusing people of being witches when they were not. And during that time, witchcraft was one of the worst crimes you could be committed with. So to claim people as witches during that time is just absolutely horrible. The other first people to be accused of witchcraft by Betty and Abigail, other than Tituba, was Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne. Sarah Good was a poor woman who was pregnant during the witch trials, and Sarah Osborne was a woman who did not attend church for 3 years. So of course that makes her a witch, right? Now, because Sarah Good was actually pregnant, her trial was suspended until after her baby was born. Meanwhile, Sarah Osborne actually died in jail, waiting to be trialed. Soon, mass hysteria started, and everybody started accusing each other of witchcraft. Now, whether it was because they didn't like these people, or because they genuinely started to believe that other people were witches, it's not totally clear, but everybody was panicked, everybody was scared, and everybody was accusing each other, thinking that that would help get them out of trouble. Abigail and Betty never got in trouble because they claimed to be witches and that they were going to renounce witchcraft after all this. So many people started accusing each other of witchcraft, and the first person to be hanged was Bridget Bishop. It was believed that Bridget could somehow control spirits and was controlling like some kind of spirit that would possess Betty and then Abigail, and then during court the girls were acting like they could see the spirit and that they were starting to get possessed and all this weird stuff. Meanwhile, Bridget's just like, what the heck, man? Bridget was then fully believed to be a witch when they said that they found poppets in her cellar. Poppets were almost like a voodoo doll type thing, kind of. They're like little dolls that you can use to control people. Now, Bridget claimed, "I am no witch. I am innocent. I know nothing of it. I am as innocent as a child unborn." But because Bridget denied her affiliation with witchcraft, which of course she did not want to do because she was a Puritan woman and was not a witch, she was then the first person to be hanged for witchcraft. Now, if we go back to Sarah Good, after the birth of Sarah's child, who unfortunately passed during birth, Sarah was then hanged. Her husband even testified against her in order to get people off of his back. What a terrible man and terrible husband. There were a lot of other women and men that were accused of witchcraft during this time and were unfortunately hanged because of it. Most of the women that were accused were only accused because of stuff like they didn't attend church, or they dressed flamboyantly, or they've been married several times, or they like to gossip, just regular human stuff, and this claimed them to be impure and witches. And most of the men that were trialed because they stuck up for their wives, or they said that they believed that the witch trials were ludicrous. The witch trials ended because of several reasons. People were starting to become skeptic on what was going on. They believed that the women that were being hanged weren't witches, which is true. Many noticed that things were getting weird. Governor Phipps's wife was actually accused of witchcraft, and that's when he was like, no, all right, we're done with this. He then pardoned all the other people who were accused of witchcraft, and then everyone just kind of agreed. Now, some people left Salem. I think Abigail and Betty left as well, probably because they knew that they were the problem. After the trials were disbanded, everyone was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I accused you guys of witches when you guys weren't. That kind of sucks, but let's move on. In fact, Reverend Samuel Parris made a sermon. Basically, he accused the devil of making him see things unclearly and claimed that the devil made him weak and ignorant, and that's why he accused all these people of witchcraft. So he never took full responsibility. He blamed it on the devil. So, boo him. Boo! So yeah, that's kind of a short explanation of the Salem Witch Trials. They were not a good time for anybody, except for maybe the people accusing people, because I feel like they started to enjoy accusing everyone of witchcraft. But yeah, that's what happened. If you're interested in learning more, there's so many historical references. There's so many books out there. But also, if you're interested in the witch trials and want like a more dramatized version, The Crucible is one of my favorite pieces of literature. It's a classic novel that's basically written as a play, but it's a dramatization of the witch trials. And some things are definitely fictionalized in that story, but it takes place during the Salem Witch Trials, so it's pretty interesting. We talked about it in my honors English class, and I was in love with that book. But yeah, guys, that's it for the Salem Witch Trials. What's cool about Salem is Salem has since kind of embraced witches, the whole witchy side of things, and I think it's kind of cool that they kind of reclaim that. So it's kind of like an FU to all of the crappy people who accused everyone of witchcraft, because now there's real life witches living in Salem. Salem is known to be really haunted for good reason. These people had very unrestful deaths, and it's just horrible. Don't accuse people of things. Don't listen to other people. Make your own assumptions in life. Use your brain and your heart. Think before you say. Think before you accuse people. Be a good human being. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. But on a lighter note, I recently visited Salem with my besties, Kylie and Faith, and it's a trip that I've always wanted to go to because I have been obsessed with the Salem Witch Trials since I was a child. So it was very cool to see in person, especially during October. So that we end the video on a happier note, let's get into a little vlog about Salem. So we're about to get into that after this video ends. If you're interested in hearing a bit more about our spooky girls trip, I actually made a vlog on my other channel, H Vlogs, so you can check out a longer vlog about our trip. But for now, let's get into a little vlog about Salem. Boop. The drive through New England was absolutely beautiful. I've never been here before, so it was a really cool experience seeing New England in fall for the first time. But look how cute our welcome to Salem was. This is just adorable. Of course, we had to absolutely stop at the iconic Bewitched statue, and we wanted to go to the witch house, but they were actually closed because we were there on Columbus Day, so that kind of sucked. But here's us driving past it, but you could see things that reference the witch house everywhere. There's also this house that was replicated to kind of look like the historical houses in the area and the witch house. But walking around Salem was so fun. We saw the sign for Dogmare. There's a good bit of fun stuff like this all around Salem. Everything was spooky themed, even the Dunkin'. I absolutely loved the stores. They had teas and herbs and candles everywhere. It was just so fun. So many like witchy trinkets and things like that. We did go into this store called Blackcraft. We actually went to get coffee, but the coffee shop apparently in October does reservations only, which we didn't know about. But it was a cool store to walk around. After shopping, we stopped at the Salem Armory Visitor Center because there's an armory around Salem, which we didn't know about, but that was cool to discover. The armory also had a bunch of stuff about the Salem Witch Trials, including books and spooky stuff, like trinkets and things like that. It was really cool. We thought it was funny that they had like Headless Horseman stuff whenever we previously went to Sleepy Hollow, like right before Salem. But yeah, the visitor center was pretty fun. They also had this kind of stuff on display. This is really cool. It's a replica of the Salem Armory, so that place is pretty huge. There were also a few replicas of what Salem used to look like back in the old days. And of course, we found this brochure for the next time we come to Salem. That's it for the Salem vlog.